I think at one point in time, I realized I had disordered eating. The fear of eating in public or asking for more.
They're like, bowl water, your hands are like shaking.
Potatoes. I'm just like, did I do it right? Is it clean? I failed my first piano test.
Oh, sorry,
no, it's okay. No, it's not funny. I don't like hard things, man. I used to have very bad stage fright and a stutter. If I eat this item, I don't have to go run for 30 minutes. A couple days ago, a kid said you tried to touch him in the bath, and I'm just like, damn.
Kevin Hart, damn.
Like, damn. They said no. I was like, you don't know what you're saying. Right? So I just looked at my parents, they looked at me, and I was like, I did not do anything. I don't have to do this, please. No, I'm positive. You guys are not serious.
You don't watch it?
Yeah. Don't bring up any more videos, please. Was that an hour and a half?
Hey everyone, I'm here today with the man himself, FTaiwo, FT, Funmilade, a man of many names. I'll let him give his own intro, just to give you an idea of who he is. FT?
Okay, thank you, Timmy. Funmilade, FT, FTaiwo. As Timmy said, no real preference really, but we're here today to talk about food and work and life. Yeah, I try not to introduce myself by my work.
Okay.
Although we're going to get into that.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll just go with name for now.
Okay. So what do you identify the most with of all those things?
There was one time I had to introduce myself and I said, hi, my name is Funmilade, I'm a boy. So we'll do that, man.
That's fair. It's not wrong.
It's not wrong. But I don't know why that was the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah,
man.
that makes sense. Okay, so I'll go FT. FT. What would I need to know about you or about like your background to sort of understand like who you are today? Take me back, basically.
Whoa. What do you need to know about my background to
understand who you are today?
That's a great question. I'm thinking about so many things right now.
Starting off.
Yeah.
Feel free. Run through most of them.
I talked about this memory recently. I used to have very bad stage fright and a stutter when I was much younger. And I failed my first piano test because I had No, it's okay. No, it's not funny. In hindsight, it's extremely hilarious. Okay. In the moment, I don't remember how old I was. Less than 10. I know that for sure. And they asked me to play C, and I froze. And I just sat there, and my lesson teacher was sitting next to the examiner.
So it wasn't even like a school event or anything?
Bro, we were in a room with two other people, man. Like, I was just scared for my life. And that was tough. I just remember just being in my head for so long, and I just couldn't do it. And they're like, okay, well, he failed. And my lesson teacher was just like, all this time we've spent, I was just like, bro, like, I don't know.
But you could play C.
I could play C, but I just froze. Same with like a taekwondo like exam that I failed again, stage fright, the stutter as well. I think over time it's just like I was very aware of the fact that I was not very comfortable expressing myself, and I also was just like very nervous in front of crowds, and doing things that I thought I would fail at. So what that like leads to today has informed a lot of the things that I do, quote unquote, loudly, because it means I don't really have a choice to like hide from doing it. But it's tough, but I'm like, oh, well, this is the only way, because if I take the small steps, I'll stop at like step 2.
So do you think, I guess, almost being at that, what felt like probably rock bottom at that point, do you feel like it couldn't get worse than that? So now it's like, yeah, sort of playing with house money. Like whatever you do, it can't be worse than freezing a room of 2 people.
I guess so, man.
Subconsciously, maybe.
Subconsciously, yeah. It's funny because I didn't think about that memory for the longest time until someone asked me if I played an instrument. And I was like,
no. Did you freeze like, oh my God.
It's like, damn. Why did you bring that up?
Yeah, I can imagine. can imagine. So the other side of that, like background, family-wise and stuff, what would you say? What would you say sort of like shapes who you are today?
Family, obviously, very huge influence. Both my parents raised us in Lagos till I was about 13. And then we moved here to Canada, Windsor, Ontario, to be specific, and did high school there, and then eventually came to university in UTM. So that background of like growing up, then also growing up again here was obviously a huge driver in like how it is I socialize myself as a Nigerian, Nigerian Canadian, and now as a Nigerian. Go back and forth.
We're good to get to that.
Okay.
What was a typical day for you growing up? I like to ask this question. I want to understand what a day during the school year was like and a summer day was like. Because I find that growing up as a kid.
Okay.
So I find that kind of like summarizes sort of how you grew up.
Okay. It depends on, was this in Nigeria or here?
I would say Nigeria. You could speak about both.
Think about a typical day in school.
Maybe not in school, but around the house, but during the school year.
Oh, during the school year. Obviously, wake up, go to school, come back, homework, eat, maybe watch TV, wait for mommy and daddy to come back. There's probably no light, so you're sitting in darkness using a candle and just chilling.
Character building,
peeling wax. All that stuff.
Making your little structure with that wax.
Bro, you have to be creative. And then you sleep. Summer, we spent a lot of summers when we were not in Nigeria. My grandfather has a house in England and a lot of...
Subtle flex. Okay.
Relax. Me and my cousins would spend a lot of our summers there together. So I grew up very, very close with my cousins. It was like 13 other kids, like within 2 years of ourselves.
I find that those are the best times.
I miss it so much,
just
man.
Vibes.
Just pure vibes.
No bills, no responsibilities, just vibes.
Oh, now it's just bills and poor vibes.
And you barely see those cousins too.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
One individual that shaped your upbringing the most?
One individual. Seems like an easy answer, but I have to say my dad, probably more so. Being the obviously male figure at home to look up to, being someone that also cooked and cooks a lot continuously, but also like there was, he's very social and like growing up and being like very nervous and like having stage fright and all of those things. I was like, God, why is this so easy for you? Why can't you just go up and start talking to people? Like, does that, man?
Yeah.
So it was something to aspire to. But I would say that connection, obviously, male to male / man to man connection definitely shaped that impact.
As a bonus, who would you say number two?
I wouldn't say number two, equally my mom.
Hey.
Yes. My mom, like, she worked in a bank and just worked bare hours. It was extremely busy.
Yeah, if you don't mind sharing what bank it is.
Intercontinental, which is now currently Access Bank.
Yeah, they got them out of here.
Yeah. Hey, man, she was gone by then. She was
in the crew by then.
She wasn't in the crew by then, man. We watched that from here. It was nuts. But yeah, she worked extremely hard and continues to work extremely hard today. Like, her work ethic is almost like pathological. But there's a drive that I was like, yo, I also want to like tap into that. So yeah, they both shape different parts of me, I'd say.
That makes sense. Just as a sidebar, your mom speaks German.
She does, and she teaches it now. Yeah, I don't know how.
Okay, so in Nigerian speaking German, I just need this. I just need a bit of a backstory on that.
So
and also why you don't speak German.
Okay, her original degree is in law and German. She trained as a lawyer, but then went into banking and didn't really do much with German for like 30 plus years. And then one day she was just like leaving the HR world and decided she wanted to do something she still loved, but wasn't super serious. Decided to pick up teaching. And I was like, you can teach remotely. She was like, really? I was like, you have a laptop. Exactly.
I don't have to leave my house.
She's just like, wow. Yeah. So she went and did a few more courses just to like get better as a teacher. And now she teaches, man. Like, it's very, very impressive work. I don't speak it because I don't like hard things, man. German is a hard language. There's a lot of difficult things in my life right now.
Okay.
Picking up German doesn't feel like one thing I want to add to my plate, but one day I would love to.
Okay. I would say that's impressive. I think when that like came across, when I found out about them, like,
yeah,
it doesn't seem like something should have.
It's not typical.
Yeah,
it's
very,
not typical.
Very, very.
But she's not a typical person, man.
Which links to how much she shapes you, right? So, you mentioned you moved to Canada at 13.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty young. Most people, I would say immigrant kids that have the ability, they move here. Maybe like 16.
After secondary school,
secondary school, and they move here. They do like maybe pre or they go straight to uni, right? But you moved a lot earlier.
Mm-hmm.
What was that experience like?
We're very excited.
Okay,
so like, yo, get out of here. Initially, we're just like, oh my god, am I going to get a Canadian accent? We're kids, man. We didn't really know what the move entailed.
I love it.
But obviously, we reached like end of summer, so things were still nice. Got into school, having to like, I was like in the 8th grade at that point in time, making new friends. We were like the only black kids in that school at that time.
Culture shock, because I want to, that's actually what I want to like maybe zoom into. 13-year-old, I remember what I was like at 13. You don't understand the concept of like so much of like race or like just the subtleties of like looking for no sort of introspection, right?
At all.
So firstly, what was it like then? And looking back, what do you then realize that you didn't realize back then?
From a race perspective, or just generally?
From just an integration point of view.
An integration point of view, the amount of paperwork my parents had to do. Now I see my friends, passing through their PR to citizenship and them going through all that paperwork. And I'm just like, damn, like my mom did it for
Kevin Hart, damn.
like obvious. And I'm also very impressed by people who have like stayed and just continued with work, gone through their PR, gone work permits and all of that into citizenship. My mom and dad had to do it for 5 people, right? Like the cost of it plus the paperwork and the stress of all of it. So
talk us of moving to an entirely new country.
Exactly. And like, back then they didn't really recognize credentials. Like my mom, 17 years HR professional, they're just like, what's that? Like, we don't recognize that. So coming and then having a family to support. My dad was going back and forth. So she was here primarily. I can imagine that like there were some days where she's just like, guys, don't stress me. I was like, mommy, I want to go to my friend's house. She's just like, can you shut up?
those meat out of the freezer days.
Those meat out of the now we get it. Now we get it, right? Like I think a lot about those moments and I'm like, wow, you sacrificed a lot, man. Like, and I can imagine there were days you didn't want that nonsense at all. But hey.
Yeah. And what was school like? Like you said, only few, you and your siblings are the only black kids.
It's only few black kids.
What was that like? Did you experience like, I guess, overt racism, or was it just more they were all kids and nothing really stood out?
A bit of both.
Okay.
One of my also funny stories. Funny now. Back then wasn't funny, man. I just come to the school. There were maybe like 150 kids in school, super small school. I went to the bathroom one day. I saw a little kid struggling. I just come from Niger. You see someone that needs help, even if it's a little kid, you give them a hand. Yeah. So I was like, yo, do you need help? I didn't touch him. I was just like, do you need a hand? And he's just like backed off. And I was like, whatever, man. Ignored the situation, carried on, did my thing and left. A couple of days later, I get called to the principal's office with my parents. They're like, do you know we have a hands-off policy in this school? And I was like, okay. And they're like, a couple of days ago, a kid said you tried to touch him in the bathroom. And I was like, whoa. And they were like, yeah, he said the black kid. And I was just, oh my gosh. Like in that moment, I just looked at my parents, they looked at me, and I was like, I did not do anything. I was trying to help. But to them, like this kid's parents also pretty much bankrolled the entire city.
Okay.
Give them that. So they had the power. But it was also just like, in this moment, I got singled out as obviously the only colored kid in this entire building. Immediately their mind went to, I was trying to harm this kid. And my dad was just like, don't help anybody in this school. Okay? If you see them struggling, leave them alone.
Let him die.
Leave them alone. And I was like, gotcha. That plus other like little racist jokes. So do you play basketball? No, man. Like, I was coming from Lagos, bro. So you guys don't play football. Like, what's happening? So I learned how to play basketball.
Okay. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, bottom line, I learned.
You're like, I see that stereotype.
Yeah, like
that's what I want. Give me that.
It's sports, whatever. But the immediate expectation of the team to now excel because I showed up.
No way.
Like, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
I've never bounced a ball in my life. So, yeah. That's
insane. Just taking you back to that room in like principal's office. You would know, like in Nigeria, if a teacher says something, parents usually believe them.
Yeah, 100%.
But I'll say in this part of the world is almost the opposite, right? People believe
their kids
more than, or like in the West, people believe their kids more than teachers, right? So I can imagine for you in that moment, I imagine your parents are like, yes, you probably like he probably did. Yeah, you're like, no way, like,
no, I did
like
not.
I swear.
I was just trying to remember, like, was I not in that room? Like, yeah, very wild situation.
That's crazy. And something that I've noticed over time was a lot of people struggle with like identity issues, especially when they move here young. That's something you experience.
Yeah, 100%. Like even just something as little as trying to stay up to date with music at that point in time. Like that was the year of PSPs and stuff. Downloading all the Afro beats and stuff that we could listen to, but being so far away. Like there was no Twitter or Instagram. It wasn't even up yet, so you couldn't even like stay up to date with the latest music. So it's like if I call my cousin or something and they
like put your phone at the speaker for me.
Like what is the newest song that I can download? YouTube was just coming up, so like feeling like damn, like I felt so far away from Nigeria through various means, but like okay, I'm in this school in a different country. I want to like assimilate and all of that, but I also wanted to stand out as a Nigerian. And so through like food, we used to have like cultural days in school. So we did our best to at least still like showcase that. But yeah, definitely like half the time was just like, man, I don't really know what's going on in Nigeria right now. Like, yeah.
Okay, but did you try to assimilate Canadian culture? Because when I say struggle with identity, like what was that struggle like? Was it like I'm in Canada, but I'm not Canadian? But like I'm also not in Nigeria, even though I'm Nigerian, initially anyways.
Not initially. I think that actually developed over time, funny enough. But the school was also an international school. So there was enough cultures for everyone to also feel that. Okay. And so like, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And just, this is a two-parter, but like same question. So what do you identify as now? Because at the beginning you mentioned Nigerian and Nigerian again, almost like a cycle. Mentally, emotionally, culturally, what do you identify as?
Nigerian.
100%.
Yeah. I have a Canadian passport. That's it, bro.
Interesting. How did you arrive at that? I'm very curious. How did you arrive at, I'm excited to go to Canada. I get to Canada, Nigerian, Canadian, but now I'm just 100% Nigerian. What's took you through that journey?
I think like it came to a point where I was like, how do I express myself like honestly? And like through a lot of reflection, I was just like, I'm Nigerian. I may have gone through migration or immigration or what have you. That doesn't take anything away from my Nigerianness. I may not be quote unquote homegrown as the term I hate, but
I only know that term from football. I didn't know.
Yeah, they use it a lot as well. But yeah, I may not live in Lagos anymore. I may not be facing the struggles everybody faces daily. Okay. But I don't want that to take away from the fact that I'm still Nigerian. So
that makes sense. I want to talk about your early creative years a bit. We have a video to show you.
Oh no. Oh no. There are so many videos I can cringe at right now.
No, it's I think it's interesting.
Is it the Amaya Man one?
No. Just because,
please do not play it. Can I pause it? I don't have to do this, please. No, I'm pausing. You guys are not serious.
What? So switch.
completely forgot about
So
this.
switch to the next tab.
Yeah. Okay. Oh God.
Switch to the next tab.
No, wrong way. Okay. Yeah, I see.
You don't watch it?
I'm not watching it. I was there.
But I can tell from like you have like a visceral. You have such a visceral reaction to that.
I haven't watched this video in so long.
In ages,
so
right?
This is not how I want to watch it.
For those that didn't see it, it's from a. I'll let you talk about this. But what was Think Afrique? What is Think Afrique?
It was an African Broadway show, is how we described it. I think at that time, a lot of African Students Associations, universities were putting on yearly shows, and it was something to look forward to. It was a good distraction from day to day schoolwork as well. Encapsulated everything from dance to drama to singing to spoken word. And like, it was probably one of the more impressive things that I've been a part of in my life thus far. So yeah, look up Think Afrique on YouTube.
Shout out Think Afrique. Shout out Ikasa.
Shout out Ikasa. Shout out Ikasa.
Seems like a lot of people got their start there. It felt like the wire for like GTA.
Yeah. Everybody, actually.
What did Think Afrique mean to you, and what was that like time in your life like?
So I talked about like not having that cultural identity mismatch up until later in high school, and as I left Windsor and came to university in Mississauga, I was just like, all the Nigerians I've been looking for, here you are.
The promised land.
The promised land. It felt really good to be reflected in such a diverse place as well. Obviously, so many cultures, but a large enough African community. And like Think Afrique helped me just like sort of get back to that. While still having a bunch of international friends. Like I still very much love my international friends, but there was a part of me that was like, I need to like connect to this.
Did you feel like a homecoming away from home, sort of?
Kind of. That's a good way to put it. And I think Afrique just meant that I spent hours every week with these guys, like practice. Some of them in my classes would study together. So yeah, it really built some good friendships.
That's good. Now, are there any stories you can share from creating this show?
Any stories?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. Be crazy. Just any interesting things that you remember in the, because you're part of the creative team.
Yeah,
right? So,
yeah. At one point, oh wait, let me. There's so many, but I'm trying to think about one. I probably think about the year we decided to move the show from UTM's campus to the hall. I forget the name of the hall right now.
Creative.
No. It was the name of a jazz musician. In Mississauga.
Near Square One?
Yes, right opposite Square One. But we moved it there and we were like, gosh, we have to fill like 1,500 seats from like 600 or 700 previously. And I was like, how are we going to do? Okay,
were you selling out previously?
Yeah. Right. So it was like, okay, can we take it to that? Obviously promotions and things like that. But it also just meant that the level of drive that went into everybody's dance moves, everybody's acting and all of that would just had to skyrocket as well. And I was just like, where did all this drive come from? Like everybody was so like in it. And it just felt like we were doing something so much greater than ourselves. And I was like, it's nice to be a part of this. And my family came down from the States to watch, like my parents came in. So I was like, this is cool. I haven't even graduated, but like, thanks guys.
That was like a warming life moment for you.
100%.
And you enjoyed it in real time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's great. Let's talk a bit about mental health. You are an advocate for mental health.
Correct.
How did that come about? Was that like, is it personal experiences, external? Talk me through that.
Yeah, a bit of both. When I left, actually my original degree is in psychology.
Okay.
And I was going to be a therapist at one point in time. And like I worked here and in Nigeria with kids with autism, like in my last year of university and then 2 years after in Nigeria. And that was like, okay, cool. I think I can continue to do this kind of work. But also like while I was in Nigeria, I think was part of my own like personal journey that started, that led to me creating Signed Up at that time. That was a directory for people to find therapists in Nigeria. Because I was like, I just left Canada. This would have been much easier. But here I am, not, first of all, stigma, things like that. Obviously, no resources online as well that were accessible, at least. So that was very helpful. But it was also because I found it difficult that I was like, it can't be that hard to set up a website. But it was difficult to get the therapist on. So that was a journey of its own. But then I was like, okay, we'll come to Canada and then get into school and be a therapist. Worked at a mental health clinic for a little bit. And over time, just realized that like, I didn't have to be a therapist to continue to be a mental health advocate or to continue to work in the industry. Like I could do other things. So decided to change paths, but continue to do that. I think that like growing up, there are a lot of times that I didn't feel I could express myself and I felt the impact of that. And I didn't like for other people to feel that way too. So yeah.
That makes sense. And I think signed up, you said?
Yes.
I think I remember that vaguely, and I think that was a good cause. But as with a lot of things in Nigeria, they get spat out no matter how good the intention is.
Bruh, I don't care about your intentions.
But that's a whole other episode, basically.
I don't care about your intentions.
Personally, have you struggled with mental health?
Yes.
Okay. Can you, as comfortable as you can be, can you give us a bit of like, talk a bit about that?
Yeah. So one of the things that I started off talking about was like that, like stage fright, quote unquote. But it also just like led to a lot of anxiety as well over time that I think has touched various areas of my life, from like stuttering and just trying to introduce myself to people to also affecting my relationship with food. I think at one point in time, I realized I had disordered eating, and that was like, it was a huge like moment for me as well, because I didn't really see it as that for a few years until I started to see it be detrimental to certain areas of my life. So going through that as well was like, okay, therapy would be great, but also like this is like something I need to address personally. So yeah, that's a bit of my own history.
And how did you find your way? How did you do it? How did you find your way through that? I know mental health is an ongoing process for people. But at the toughest part, how did you find your way through, and how did you get through that?
Started going to therapy.
All right.
Yeah, a little bit more consistently.
How old were you?
When probably like 24, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when I was like, okay, I got to get a handle on this. And it was good. It was helpful. It was also when I started like working in kitchens a bit more seriously. And so being around food a lot, but also like struggling with this was like very conflicting. Because I loved food, loved to cook food, but didn't really enjoy the eating of it. So I was like, guy, if I want to get better at this cooking thing, I may have to solve this problem or at least work on it. Yeah.
Okay. So again, not to zoom in too much, but the disorder was not eating.
Or having very restricted concepts of what healthy food is, and shaping my diet around 5 items or so that are healthy, and being terrified to eat all the other things surrounding that because quote unquote they're unhealthy.
And was that a slow process getting out of that?
Yeah. Obviously, like the fear of eating in public or asking for more, or even in my own house, like cooking certain foods, being okay with like, if I eat this item, I don't have to go run for 30 minutes. Like, it's okay to just eat and fucking chill. Like, you'll be fine. But yeah, just getting over those thought patterns,
Okay.
let's say.
That makes sense. I have a quote here. It says, I think the bridge between cooking and mental health for me is how much goes into my final product. Even if the outcome of all this falls short, at least my setup is there and I'm ready to try again. Do you know where this quote is from?
Yeah, from an article
Okay.
that I wrote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you do remember what you said. That was a little test.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is a leading question, but what do you think has had the biggest impact on your mental health?
With regards to cooking and food?
It doesn't have to be cooking and food, which I don't want to lead you into that.
Right,
But what do you
right.
think in general has had the biggest impact on your mental health?
There was, have you watched A Star is Born?
No, but I know about
Bradley
it.
Cooper and
Yes.
Lady Gaga.
Yes.
Very sad ending, but it was also about this guy who was on public stages, was a musician, struggled with his own mental health. Tragic ending, but I think the way that he was able to pick up himself and perform and do all of that, but afterwards just going and like you could see all the dark sides. I was like, that's exactly what I've been trying to say. That like I may be on stage performing, I might be cooking in public, but
You might
like,
be the funny guy. You might be
Yeah,
the jovial
yeah,
guy. You
yeah,
might be
but-
the one people gravitate towards.
exactly. But behind that, like I'm not doing that great. And I was like, okay, I may have to like start to work on this shit, right? Like, so it was a sad movie to watch. But because I think it's just like it was such a vivid mirror. But it was a helpful mirror, I would say.
So it was sad but pivotal for you, I guess.
Definitely.
What would be your advice to those struggling at the moment with their mental health? And, you know, maybe they don't see a way out, or maybe they do see a way out, but it's not as easy, or, you know, they're just like maybe a bit below water.
I mean, everyone says talk about it, right? And that's easier said than done because you may not have safe spaces to talk about things. So I think an outlet doesn't have to be talking about it to anyone in your life if they can't handle it, so to say. But an outlet is important because I think what really gets us down is that we think we're the only ones dealing with that problem, but really and truly, like that problem has been felt 1,000 times over than other people. And so, yeah, trying to find an outlet for it, like thankfully the internet exists because then you can also find community online, which was like one of the most helpful things for me because I didn't have to do it in person. So if that works for you, that's fantastic too. But also if you do have people in your life that are safe enough, like tap in. And then also like a lot of remedies or approaches to dealing with mental health are often super westernized. And that's fine, but there are things that are very indigenous to different cultures that are also healing. And so if that exists for you, you don't have to do yoga, quote unquote, or like you also don't have to talk to a therapist if you don't want to. If you already have other healing practices, like tap into your own community.
And you mentioned there's some things that, you know, are not necessarily native, but are there any other maybe practical day-to-day steps that helped you? Like some people say routines, some people say getting sunlight, taking a walk, you know, being by the water, whatever it is, talking to strangers for some people. Do you have any of those things that?
I love taking walks.
Me too.
Yo, amazing.
A walk can change your day.
Like if I can do it before work as well, exceptional.
Yes.
But also, changing how you talk to yourself is super important. Like paying attention to the voice inside your head when something happens. Like whatever it is you're telling yourself about a situation can really, really shape how you respond, like emotionally, physically, and otherwise. So positive talk, sometimes I have to like call myself and be like, Funmilade.
Really?
Yeah. And it's helpful. A lot of people talk about like your inner child. And sometimes you have to speak directly because that might be the person that's hurting for real. You have to address them as the adult in the situation and just be like, hey, I know this is tough, but like that thing you're saying, I don't like to hear that one. Like, so yeah, game changer.
Like the self-talk is something I didn't even realize was a thing for a long time, because you grow up. I recently found out there's like two types of people. Some people some people talk to themselves mentally all the time. Some people are just like living life and like doing what they do, and thinking sort of like they think, but they're not talking to themselves. That makes sense. And I think that's the bracket I fall into. But I didn't realize that you listen to yourself more than you realize. And many times when you're in a situation, the first thing you hear is yourself, right? And that, like you said, that shapes how you deal with that situation.
Yes.
So I think positive talk is something that, and some people think, you know, with toxic masculinity, I don't think it's crazy. Like, why am I giving myself a pep talk? Like, just do it kind of thing.
To, man.
But I think it's a game changer.
It is. Because also, like, sometimes you grow up with just like talking down on you. Like you do something wrong, all of a sudden everything is your fault.
And you internalize that.
This slightest thing goes wrong in your life, everything now is your fault, right? So like, how can you like reframe that first thing, that this thing went wrong? I'm not a horrible person, fam. Like, it's not the end of the world. Like, kind of thing. So
and I think like separating like a situation from like yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because I heard this a while ago, might have been like a sermon or something, but like there's offense and there's offended, right? So someone can like offend you, but then the being offended is sort of like where your
it's your responsibility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can just separate yourself from like if you look at a situation for what it is.
Yeah.
Like this is a situation and it stands alone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not in it. Right. And then you choose how you exactly, and you choose how you kind of like merge with this. Like, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really, really profound. Thanks for that. My favorite part, cooking.
Okay.
How do I start?
Talk about my dad. Always loved cooking till this day. To him, it's a release. But it was also nice again to see the guy in the family comfortable in the kitchen.
For some context, a lot of Nigerian dads are known to cook.
No,
often.
Yeah.
Like it's usually the stereotypical like roles that happen in a lot of African homes, right?
Correct.
Some dads go to the kitchen maybe once a month.
Yeah.
To grab
just one
drink.
thing. Yeah. And run back to their room.
Or grab a piece of meat. Right? So I just want to give that context for you to like for people to understand that like that was not the norm.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So seeing that like from when we host our home to just like regular weeknight meals and things like that, it was like, okay, cool. Like maybe this is cool, nice. Also, like he would like make sure we helped him in the kitchen. Mostly me and my brother. We have a much younger sister, but my brother is older. And oftentimes, even if it's like he's just bought meat from his butcher, go outside and help him wash it because he's about to boil it and make soup. So get part of the process. I was like, I hate washing meat, bro. It's nasty. like 10 years old. Why am I doing this? But you know, you pick these skills up over time. Moving here, every time we hosted in the summer, like, because he wasn't in here all the time. When he would reach, it was like, guys, barbecue season. And like host all the Nigerians in Windsor, for example. Me and my brother on the grill with him. So just learning. And then in school, I needed a side job.
Okay.
There was a pub on campus. It was an easy job to get into. And then that was my first kitchen job. And I just stuck with that since.
So you've given a bit of an insight. So you've always been, you say, in and around the kitchen.
Correct.
And what was your earliest memory of being in the kitchen? Just those things you described, like your dad calling you, washing meats, etc.
Washing meats, man.
Was that like your role? Like it sounds like a bit traumatic.
We did it a lot. It wasn't a one-time thing, man. I just remember vividly. I remember the smell, bro. Like, yeah. So it was also just like quote unquote grunt work, but it's also necessary work. Yeah.
Something I do want to highlight. I feel like how your parents or how parents pull their kids into the kitchen shaped a lot of kids' relationship with cooking.
Yeah, facts.
Growing up, my wife is an excellent cook, and she loves it. Like she loves it. You know when someone loves it, like
loves to do
she'll
it.
drive like an hour just to get like a specific type of meat
To come back and cook it.
Right?
Love that.
But she was always in the kitchen growing up. Like
Right.
first daughter, always in the kitchen. Right. For me, I was the last kid and last boy. I'm not
Food is
there.
already ready, bro.
I will never be there. You know, I chopped stuff, which I enjoyed because it was like oddly satisfying, like chopping stuff. But so not being there, having no kitchen responsibilities,
Yeah.
I just grew up as like, and I sort of like make food for like sustenance. Like I make the simplest thing.
Survival.
20 minutes and under. 10 minutes and under if possible. Air fryer changed my life.
Hey, it's changed my life too, man.
The air fryer was like the internet, like the invention. I need to look up who actually created the air fryer. Like send that person some
shout out them, man.
Like a little like squeeze like $5 into the person's hand.
Only $5?
hey, it's a recession. So I find that's growing up.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's where your affinity for cooking started? Just being in the kitchen often?
100%.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense to me. So when did you decide to take it seriously?
I'd worked, did the pub, went to Nigeria, did some cooking work, and then I came back and I was looking for work in the mental health field. One of my first jobs was in another kitchen. And then as time went on, I was like, this is cool, but I also want to start like cooking Nigerian food. Like working in Italian restaurants is fantastic, but I was like, suya is also delicious. So like, let's make some suya. And then, did a first barbecue event. That was really fun.
So just to interject, that reminds me of like Black Panther. You know how like they sent him abroad to like I think study and stuff. Yeah. But eventually he had to come back home to like be the hero of like Wakanda. I feel like the Italian restaurants was hero. Yeah. That was, I think it was Jersey. You grew up in Jersey or something. His dad grew up in Jersey.
Oakland. It was Oakland.
It was
Oakland. Yeah.
That was your Italian.
I guess, man.
And then you had to just come back to Wakanda.
Pretty much. And we brought it back. And then I think just like the better restaurants I worked at, the more I realized that like I could bring that level of skill and technique to the food that I wanted to cook. And I would say the moment I decided to take this as seriously as I'm taking it now was 2024?
2024.
Like 2022, 2021 maybe. At the last restaurant I worked at, I was like, this is the level that I want to continue cooking at. And so I tried to take my life seriously.
Is it a therapeutic process for you, or is it more a creative process for you, or a bit of both?
A bit of both. A bit of both, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. And like, if you want to dive a bit more into that, or like, it just feels. Do you feel like your worries melt away when you cook? And your creative juices are flowing, sort of thing? Okay.
If I'm testing a dish, that's more creative, right? Like. So many things are happening here in flux. We're tasting da. If I'm cooking on a well-established recipe that I'm used to, I know is comforting, that's probably a bit more therapeutic. If it's like a dinner, for example, that might be a bit of both because like I'm locked in and like nothing else is getting into my head at that point in time. Music may be playing, guests may be talking, and it's just go. So like that is also oddly therapeutic sometimes.
Speaking of experimenting, when you speak about like everything going, I'm thinking like ratatouille, and like they're tasting. Do you have? Or can you talk about some of your bad creative experiences where you're like taste, you spit it out, got you sick, give yourself food poisoning?
I haven't given myself food poisoning yet.
Knock on wood.
Exactly, man. But something that didn't go as well. So there's a dish right now that I have. It's a moi moi dish, and it's one of my favorite dishes. But that dish started out completely upside down. Okay,
and moi moi is just like bean cake, right?
A steamed bean cake, yes. It's that with a beetroot and shito sauce. Very unusual pairing, but works fantastically. Before that, it was beetroot on top of like a blended moi moi sauce with a bunch of other shit on it, and I was like, this is okay, but I don't really love it. But I had to eat it because I'm like, this is my dinner. I was spent the past 2 or 3 hours.
There's no going back, right?
There's no going back. Yeah. This has to go on. So I ate it, and I ate that dish probably 20 more times until it got to where it's at right now. Through various iterations and feedback, but it was just like, there were times where I was like, this is the nastiest thing I've tasted in my life. Like, how? Like, what exactly am I trying to prove?
It's like, you don't have to do this.
I don't have to do this. But I did. Thankfully I did.
Yeah.
So that was probably, the most like thing that I made before the final form.
Okay, that makes sense. And just quickly, was there a point that you transitioned from like cooking as like putting ingredients together to figuring out that like this is like therapeutic?
I don't know if I ever clocked the switch, but I think there are moments where I realize that like 2 hours have gone by and I've just been in the zone.
That feels good, right?
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, I wasn't thinking about the thing that was stressing me out earlier on. So hey, I'm gonna do this again.
That makes sense. So that was like your own like people say that about like football, for example, like
Right.
you don't think about anything. I just that was your own version of this is my zone type of thing.
Yeah.
Let's talk a bit about your culinary work experience. Talk about the Italian restaurants. What was that like? I know it gave you a new level and a sense of like, okay, this is what I want to do, but in a different like lane.
Yeah.
But what are those experiences like?
It was nice to work with other professionals as well. People who had been doing that for way longer, people who went to school for it. And it taught me like, okay, this is how you create a dish so that when someone orders it, it's ready in 15 minutes, for example. That has been very helpful.
Like the engineering almost.
The engineering of it all. Like one thing that like I use to help myself get better at anything is something I learned from working the grill station. Is like when an order comes in, what are all the things that you can do from the moment you put that meat on the grill that gets you ready to put the plate up? And that comes with practice, because otherwise the first thing I do is put the meat and I'm watching it. And I'm just
and
like,
time
is going because I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah.
But it's like you can do that, get the plate, set it, put the sauce, talk to someone else on the other station, make sure everything's coming together, and check the meat. How do I get into a flow state with anything that I want to do? It's through practice you realize that you don't have to pay attention to one thing for 20 minutes. You realize that you can be in flow, right? Like, so that anything I learn in life right now is like, okay, get past the hard part and learn about how you get to that point where if you're playing football, for example, the ball comes to you, you know how to read the field. Like you're not thinking about the first touch immediately. So like it's similar to that.
Just to sort of jump back to the beginning, you mentioned you don't like doing hard things, but you've also mentioned that every time you do a hard thing, once you get to the hard part, so is that just convincing yourself like this is hard, but I'm going to do it anyways?
Yes. Yeah, I may not enjoy it, but like the outcome is necessary.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And do you have any stories from working in those kitchens? Any like crazy stories or those things that like you couldn't believe initially?
The last restaurant I worked at, Quetzal, everything cooked on open fire. And I'd come to our restaurant to eat a couple times, and I loved this so much that I was like, I kind of want to learn. But getting behind the kitchen,
it was hot.
It's like, you guys mean this cooking thing you're doing?
They were cooking.
They were cooking, and I had to cook too. Like I didn't have a choice. That was also again putting myself in an extremely difficult situation. And just like, guys, sink or swim. Like I sank a lot of the times, but the shift will end and I'll run it again the next day. Also, because you are in front of a fire for hours on end, you're constantly sweating.
Wow.
But I just remember like having to care orders that are being called, deal with the heat, feed a fire, pick items, put them on the grill, talk to customers because you're also at the bar.
Really?
Like it was a lot of work. But again, like, I was like, God, this is nuts. I can't believe this is happening.
What were you thinking? If I survive this, I would be at a new level.
Yeah. Like, I was like, I just have to learn how to get into a flow in this process. Like, it took a long time, and I didn't even get to where I wanted to get before I left. I worked there for probably like 6 or 8 months. Oh, wow. But I wasn't there every day.
Yeah.
I was working part-time. Okay. So I didn't have all the hours in a week that I should have had, but I got to a good enough place, I would say. And yeah.
And if you just walk us through your work experience, so I know Gusto,
yeah. It was one of them, yeah. 101.
101. You said Quetzal, right?
Quetzal. So it was at first the pub, then Scatterbush in Mississauga, and then Gusto.
Scatterbush is legendary.
Legendary spots, bro. Like Gusto, and then Quetzal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was your favorite of those?
Quetzal.
Okay. Just because it was hard, or because the education?
The education, yeah.
Okay. Most times, I don't know, in some circles, when you say FTaiwo, people say the GOAT. Right?
Okay.
Have you heard this before?
No.
No one has ever called you the GOAT to your face. I don't believe that, because I've actually heard people call you the GOAT to your face.
Okay.
How do you deal with like, and I ask this carefully, how do you deal with like local fame of like people knowing you like either from your cooking or just like vibes, being around, like being like a familiar face?
Right. It's okay. I think that like it just made me realize that I have a really strong community here, and I really appreciate that. Like, if I didn't go to UTM, things may be extremely different for me right now. But I appreciate the support more than anyone knows. Like, it makes it hard to want to leave the city. So that is fantastic. I think that like what has probably felt a little weirder is dealing with that online.
What do you mean?
In as much as I enjoy social situations, I don't like a lot of access.
that was good to my next question. Like, does it make you uncomfortable?
Sometimes online.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like in person people have a bit more decorum around like just like accessing you. Like they may see me in public or I may see someone I know in public, and I know this person peripherally. But I'm not going to just assume we're best friends. I'm not going to start asking about their personal lives. Sometimes that happens online and it just makes me uncomfortable.
So people like, is it coming from a place of love and reverence, or is it just more like nosy, like people just want to get to know you more than
I don't know, man. I actually don't know what it might be. Like I appreciate it, but sometimes I'm just having a day where I just kind of want to not be accessed, right?
I see.
And it just means I just take a lot of social media breaks now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same, actually.
Yeah. I just deactivate.
It feels good sometimes.
It does.
Maybe not initially.
Yeah.
But over time, you feel like you get yourself back a little bit.
Yeah. Even if it's for a week, like I'm out and I'm not thinking about Instagram or Twitter for a whole week. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that is good. What you said about like maybe not wanting to be accessible, or like, you know, people are almost like people want more from me that I can give them.
Yeah.
I was into a podcast and the question was, what's the downside of fame, or like upside and downside? But this person said something that I had never thought about, right? He said you can never love people as much as they love you.
Interesting.
And obviously the downside of fame is like, okay, you have no privacy, blah, blah. But when it comes to actual relationships, he says you can never love people, and you want to love them more, you want to give them more. But the intensity and the amount that they love you can never replicate that.
100%.
And sometimes it hurts, right? For at that level. But I think, obviously, your case is probably a bit different. Just more like you want to be able to pick and choose how much access people have to you.
And I think that's just honestly a symptom of social media. Like, you know, you think you know someone well enough because you have a good view into their life.
And you've seen their lives over the years, right?
Yeah. And like, again, I'm a friendly person, no doubt, but like sometimes like I kind of just really want quiet time. Like, and
Yeah. And speaking of the other point of one of the advantages of fame, which I also never thought about, is he said you always have people's attention. So like he was just talking about like, if you're doing a gig in like a bar, and like a up and coming group that no one knows about, people are like talking, chatting, like you know, it's a tough gig for them. But if you say, oh, you know, any like a Chris Brown is coming to you, you always have people's attention, right? Which is in itself an advantage, because now you've stripped out all the noise and they're listening to just you and what you have to say, kind of thing.
All the time they are listening to
exactly,
just you.
Right? So I just wanted to like close the loop on that. At home with FT, I always joke that one of my claims to fame, I don't have a lot actually. One of my claims to fame is being the first guest on
Correct
At Home with FT.
Yep.
And for those that still get the newsletter, that's me in a very animated state. I was going to collect royalties, but you have to like
let me blow first.
You have to
now.
do things. Yeah. I'll be back.
I'll be here. Don't worry.
Once I start seeing your name on some news channels, I'm coming for those royalties.
Come knocking.
Yeah.
Okay.
How did At Home with FT come about?
I've been to a few dinner experiences like this. I've seen them online. And ever since I moved into my own apartment, I always wanted to have a table where I could host people. And when I moved into this current spot, I was like, there's no better time than now. It also perfectly lined up with me leaving Quetzal, because I just felt it was too difficult to manage my 9-to-5 schedule with a demanding kitchen schedule. But I still wanted to cook. So I can do this at home. It's my own time. And that's kind of just how it came up. There's a lot of things that I've been testing that I wanted to share with people. And I didn't always want to wait to do a larger event. So this super intimate dining experience that I've thought about over the years just like came together. And it's been fun. It's been very,
that was my next question. What has it been like so far?
Other than fun, it's been like one of the things I really wanted was for it to get out of like my immediate circle online. And it's starting to do that a little bit, which is great because it means the interest is not just because people know me. And I love people that want to support me because they know me, but I don't want to rely on their money for this thing to be successful. How do we get it outside of that? And it's starting to do that a little bit. It's also like introducing combinations, food pairings to both people who are familiar with Nigerian food and those who are not to it, and both crowds are happy. So like that is like a good sign for me.
Okay, that makes sense. And I wanted you to like walk me through your process of building a menu for At Home with FT.
Okay. If I'm thinking like 5-6 courses, obviously there has to be a dessert. Okay. But the first couple courses, I typically like to do a snack to start off with that is like often nostalgic, either for me specifically or for Nigerians. So I pick something and experiment and run with it. And then the following 3 courses or so will build from like smaller to a main meal or 2 mains. And then I just think about like, what are things that I've been enjoying first off? And if I run out of ideas, then it becomes a deeper research that might include scanning social media. And like, there's a lot of chefs that I admire really and love to see what they're doing with food. I get inspiration from that. Have some books as well. And then I just like go out and eat different things, man. Like traveling is also super helpful for that. And then if there's a certain theme, or right now I try to do them seasonally. So I would like look at the seasonal produce and be like, where can these things fit in on the menu? Okay. And also help create a Nigerian dish.
What's been your favorite episode of, if you can call it an episode of At Home with FT, or installment, or
maybe if you look at it in menus, because one menu runs for like 3 or 4 months. Okay. So I would call like one menu one season, so to say. Favorite one so far will probably have to be this current one, because the items I think are a little bit, there are a couple items that are a little bit outside of what Nigerians are used or will be comfortable eating, at least, like raw mackerel, for example. Eating that in like a ceviche style dish that is like packed with Nigerian flavors. That's, everybody that's tried it so far, thankfully, has been happy with it, but I'm always holding my breath like when I put it on the table. And it just, I think, also speaks to my own personal evolution with creating menus, because if you remember the time that you guys ate, you were probably super full at the end of that.
Yes.
Yeah. And while I do want people to be satisfied, I don't want them to feel heavy leaving the house.
There's also inflation.
Amen.
So that's in the background.
Amen. But it also
I won't loud it too much.
Also just like portion control.
Okay.
Like, how do you create a satisfying 6-7 course menu that builds up over, like, so keeping the pace of the menu like has also been something that I've learned a lot. And I'm like, okay, I think I've got that down. Let's replicate that going forward.
And who has been your most, or who have been your most interesting guests so far? And present company excluded, because I don't want to put you under pressure.
Hey man, you knew my answer.
I'll take that as a compliment. But yeah, who has been or who have been your favorite guests or most interesting?
Ooh, most interesting.
So you don't do favorites.
Okay.
Or you could do favorite and most interesting.
Let's not. Let's just do most interesting.
Yeah.
Think about all the people that have come through. There was one dinner where, yes, recently my friend's cousin drove from Montreal for the dinner.
Oh.
And she had seen it online a few times, and my friend, has worked with me at a couple of my events. And interesting just because I was like, I couldn't believe you drove all the way. So maybe she's also my favorite.
Fair.
She takes both, man. Like that is also like a super humbling thing, because I would drive 3-4 hours for a dinner experience, but that person might be like a world-renowned chef, for example. So to think that someone regards this in that same way.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, that's like a 6-hour drive.
Yeah, Montreal to Toronto is a long drive.
Yeah.
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 Shout outs to her, man.
And the person paid to eat.
And yeah, I was like, yeah, your food is going to be extra sweet today.
He said, yeah, getting some extra love.
Extra.
I want to quickly touch on a few things. So recently you were in Colombia.
Correct.
Briefly, what inspired that trip?
A desire to be by myself for a little bit.
Okay.
And also do the hard thing of like not having anyone to lean on in social situations. Like, yeah.
So you're in Colombia, and all of a sudden you're in the kitchen cooking. That a lot of people go to Colombia and it's like, okay, excursions and like beaches.
Yeah.
But you're cooking in Colombia.
Why not? Why wouldn't you cook in Colombia?
Tell me, I want to hear about that. Like how that came about and what that was like.
So I was working remotely while I was there for the first 2.5 weeks, and then Christmas break hit. I was off for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I was going to be spending a lot of money going out, and I was like, I would like my days to be a bit more structured. And I'd heard about people volunteering at hostels and things like that. So I was like, I could volunteer at the kitchen in the hostel. They said no. I was like, you don't know what you're missing.
Right? It's funny because you say that, was some people be like, damn, I can't even get in a hostel kitchen.
Like a volunteer. Like, you don't have to pay me, bro. Like, but it's okay. I Googled restaurants close to my hostel.
Okay.
And I found this really cool spot that just looked like the kind of place I would want to work in. The upscale Colombian spot. And I walked in, translated on my phone that, hey man, I don't speak too much Spanish, but I know how to cook and I want to learn Colombian food and I want to improve my Spanish. And the chef spoke a little bit of English, so communicated, and he's just like, okay, you can start tomorrow. Let me know the days you want to work, and then just got in there and did it. It was
so that first dish was. Did you feel pressure?
Extreme pressure.
I can imagine.
Extreme pressure.
I can imagine. Like, they're like boil water, your hands are like shaking.
Guy, like the smallest peeled potatoes. I'm just like, did I do it right? Did I do this right? Is it clean?
Is it clean? I can imagine you asking the chef.
Washing the potato. Yo, it was nuts.
Oh man! But yeah, you progressed and.
Yeah, I got a little bit more comfortable. They were also just very welcoming. And for me, like, again, just being in an unfamiliar social situation, I have to learn the language, learn the kitchen system, and, like, learn the menu was a lot for my brain. But, like, we got through it because they were welcoming enough.
And what parallels do you draw between, like, the culinary scene and, like, and just culinary experience internationally and, like, here and like Nigerian, like what do you draw a line through them?
Cooking anywhere in the world is hard.
Really?
It's not an easy job wherever you go. It can be glamorized and all of that, but oftentimes it's low pay when you're working in a restaurant, and everybody just like, I haven't met a cook or chef that just doesn't want to be the best at what they're doing.
So they have a lot of ambition.
A lot of ambition. And they also just want to be like, what's the next thing that I can do? Like, how do I become like maybe entrepreneurial if you want to, or become the head chef of this restaurant. But there's just so much drive, and it's inspiring to just see people like dedicate hours on end. And sometimes I just feel like me, I have my 9 to 5. I don't do this 24/7. Like, so I like being around those kinds of people. Yeah.
I want to touch briefly on your 9 to 5. So just, you can really quickly walk me through after school what you did, and I believe you had a career switch.
Yes.
Like, just talk me through that and what you do now.
So the career switch happened when I decided not to be a therapist anymore. And I had worked on mental health products, digital mental health products prior to that. And so I was thinking about doing my psych degree in tech. User experience design is a fantastic intersection between technology and psychology. So I was like, this was a fantastic fit. I did a boot camp for 3 months and got into product design. And now that's what I've been doing for the past 4 years. Damn.
Damn.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
4 years this April. I've been doing product design. So now I work for a health insurance company. So it still allows me to be in the mental health space because we do have mental health products. But yeah, so I do.
Why did you want to be a psychologist anymore? A therapist or anymore?
I just like, I can be fairly one-track minded when it comes to certain things. And I thought that with my psych degree, this is the only thing that I could do. But once I was like, you have options. You can choose, and you can still be a mental health advocate, for example, and do something else with your life. So
makes sense. So looking forward, what does the future look like with respect to your culinary exploits? So at home with FT, just cooking in general, what does the future look like?
Tough question.
And how far do you want to take it?
I want to take it as far as I can take it. I don't know if I want a restaurant. My goal, or the one thing I picture in my head, is a house with an extra building that is just a really decked out kitchen and a wonderful table that I can host people at. If that's my restaurant,
So
that's
at
my
home with
restaurant.
FT on steroids.
On steroids, bro. Like, so I continue to do all the work that I need to do to get me ready for that, if that's where it ends. But yeah, we'll see.
That's good. We're going to do some quick fire questions.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Yeah.
Don't bring up any more videos, please.
no more videos, I promise. Most interesting place cooking has taken you?
Ooh, most interesting place cooking has taken me to the house of a judge on Dragon's Den.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just like a homemade dinner?
I was helping another chef out.
Okay.
And pulled up and I was like, oh, it's this guy's house? I was just like,
If you didn't sign an NDA, can you share what judge that is?
I didn't sign it's the black dude. The bald black guy in Canada.
Okay.
Why am I forgetting his name?
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
But the fact you don't know the name is pretty bad also.
Very bad. Don't put this on. Don't put this.
Don't worry, we'll get the name in there somewhere. You might have answered this already, but your wildest culinary dream?
Wildest culinary dream. Ooh, that's a tough question.
Yeah. Some people will be like, okay, cooking for Barack Obama, whatever, or having like their own restaurant, like you said.
Yeah. I want to carve a lane in Nigerian cooking that is so unique to my style of cooking.
That you be the first.
Not necessarily the first, but to own that lane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unique, basically.
Pretty much.
3 guests that are alive you would like to cook for?
3 guests?
3 dinner guests that are alive you would like to cook for?
My dad's mom, who's late.
Okay. Your grandma?
My grandma, yeah. From my dad's side. Ooh.
I would imagine there's something you thought of before.
I've never thought about this.
Okay.
There's so many things around cooking that I haven't thought about, which is so funny. The chef at Quetzal.
Okay. Is that more like to telling me, like, to show him you've made it or what? Or like
No, because his style of cooking also inspired mine.
Okay.
So it'd be good to get some feedback.
Okay, so Paterno, grandma, Quetzal chef. One more.
Dead or alive? I don't know yet.
I don't know why Anthony Bourdain came to my head for some weird reason, but
That would be typical.
Yeah,
That would be typical.
You don't know yet. I guess it's yet to materialize. But we'll keep that seat open. Just 2 guests.
2 guests
with
so
an
far.
empty seat.
An empty seat. We'll fill it.
Cooking or designing?
Cooking.
Favorite city you've visited?
Medellin.
Favorite dish?
Egusi.
Favorite workout?
Kettlebell swings.
Your favorite Toronto restaurant?
Afrobeat Kitchen.
Close it to wrap up the interview. We usually do 2 questions.
Okay.
When you're back here in X number of years and you've made it, what does that look like?
That house, man.
That house.
That house.
The nice house with an extension.
Yeah.
With a badass kitchen.
Yeah.
Is it by the water?
The water would be nice, but I don't know if I want that in Toronto. Yeah.
Why?
I don't know, man. The water is not that nice here, man.
Some parts.
It's some parts of it, I guess. But I don't picture it there.
Okay. So nice house, nice external kitchen that you can just go crazy. Final question. Who do you think will be a great guest for this show? But there's a caveat. You have to help us get them.
Okay. I mean, the first person that comes to mind is UAX. Shay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds good. Oh, FTaiwo, Funmilade. Thank you so much.
Timmy.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you, everyone.
Cut! There you go.
Was that?